He lost everything the night she betrayed him, but found himself in the aftermath. I never thought I'd be the kind of man who discovers betrayal in his own home. For 20 years, I believed I was living a life built on loyalty, love, and friendship. My wife, Lena, and I met in college. She was the quiet one in the back row who always carried a notebook full of poetry, and I was the one who fixed things. Somehow, we fit. Over the years, I worked hard, traveling out of town for long shifts, sometimes weeks at a time, to give her the life she deserved. I trusted her completely. I never imagined that trust could be the very thing that would destroy me. That Thursday, I came home early. The plan was to surprise her. I wanted to bring flowers, maybe some dinner, and spend the evening watching the old movies she loved. My flight landed earlier than expected, so I didn't text her. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed a car I didn't recognize, sleek, black, parked just slightly out of view. At first, I thought maybe it was one of her friends. But then I saw the way the curtain moved in the living room, the quick flick of panic. My heart sank before my brain could even make sense of it. I walked in quietly. I could hear laughter, hers, the kind of laughter I hadn't heard in months. And then, a man's voice. I don't remember walking upstairs. I just remember the sound of my own breathing, rough and uneven, the pounding in my ears. When I opened the door, time stopped. They both froze. My wife, wrapped in sheets, eyes wide with disbelief. And him, Daniel, a man I knew. A man I'd had dinner with. I didn't scream. I didn't fight. I just stared, because in that moment, anger wasn't even the first thing I felt. It was grief, raw, silent, bottomless grief. I walked out before they could speak. I think she said my name, but it didn't matter. I spent that night in my truck, parked at an overlook outside of town. The city lights below looked so small, almost peaceful. My hands were shaking. I kept replaying every memory. Our anniversary, our vacations, the nights she said she loved me. All of it suddenly felt like a movie I'd been watching instead of living. When I finally went home, she was gone. There was a note on the counter. Apologies, excuses, promises of confusion and mistakes. I didn't read it all. I couldn't. The betrayal was too loud. The days that followed were quiet but heavy. Word spread fast. Small towns have a way of doing that. I later found out that Daniel was married too. His wife, Samantha, was the one who reached out to me. We met once, at a diner outside of town. No tears, no shouting, just two broken people trying to understand how their worlds had collapsed. There was a strange peace in that moment. Two strangers connected by the same wound. I thought revenge would fix something. It didn't. What truly hurt wasn't what they did, it was realizing how easy it was for them to lie. I moved out of the house we built together. The silence was unbearable at first, but after a while, I started to appreciate it. There's something honest about emptiness. Months turned into a year. Lena filed for divorce. I didn't contest it. I didn't want her to feel like I was holding on to anything that didn't exist anymore. For a long time, I carried the weight of that night, the smell of the room, the sound of her laughter, but eventually, it became just another memory that time wore down. I started rebuilding myself from the ground up. I fixed what I could fix, my house, my routines, my faith in mornings. Therapy helped, though I hated it at first. Talking about feelings wasn't something I was good at, but slowly, I learned that healing wasn't about forgetting, it was about accepting what you can't change. One evening, I ran into Samantha again. She looked better, calmer. We talked about everything that had happened. It wasn't closure, but it was something close. She said she'd forgiven Daniel, not for him, but for herself. That stuck with me. Maybe forgiveness wasn't something you gave someone else, maybe it was something you gave yourself to stop bleeding. Years passed. I still live in Colorado, in a small cabin near the edge of town. The mountains rise behind my porch like old guardians, quiet and steady. Every morning, I take Max for a walk before work. The air is cold and clean, and for a few minutes, the world feels perfectly still. Most of the anger has faded. What remains is softer, a memory that doesn't hurt anymore, just reminds me who I used to be. The first year after the divorce was survival. The second was learning. By the third, life began to feel like mine again. I rebuilt slowly. New friends, new habits, a job I actually enjoyed. I started teaching younger guys at the site how to manage projects, showing them how to balance ambition with peace of mind. People ask if I ever heard from Lena again. Once, maybe a year ago. A short letter. She said she'd remarried, that she hoped I was doing well. I didn't respond, not out of bitterness, just because there was nothing left to say. Forgiveness, I've learned, isn't a conversation. It's a quiet decision you make alone. I still see Samantha sometimes, mostly by coincidence. Her kids are growing fast. She looks lighter now, freer. We talk about work, the weather, the small things that used to seem meaningless but now feel like proof that life goes on. There was a time when we were bound by pain. Now, it's just respect. Two people who walked through fire and made it out the other side without letting it turn them to ash. On nights when the wind howls through the trees, I sit outside with a cup of coffee, listening to the world breathe. I think about how fragile love is, and how dangerous it becomes when taken for granted. But I also think about grace, about how even broken people deserve a chance to change, as long as they're willing to face what they've done. Maybe Lena found her peace. Maybe Daniel did too. That's no longer my concern. My peace doesn't depend on their misery, it depends on my ability to let go. Last week, I went hiking alone, like I used to before life got heavy. The trail was steep, the sun just beginning to rise. When I reached the top, the valley stretched out below me, golden, silent, endless. I stood there for a long time, breathing it all in. And for the first time in years, I felt whole. Not happy, not sad, just complete. People think closure means an ending, but it doesn't. Closure is learning to carry the story without letting it carry you. I'll always remember her laugh, the life we built, and the night it all fell apart. Those things are part of me. But so are the mornings after, the quiet ones, filled with sunlight and coffee and a dog who never stopped believing I'd be okay. And that's enough.